Right. So there I was reeling from Brexit winning. There I was reeling from Trump winning, wanting to know how this happened, how the facts could not win these campaigns. And I took a deep dive into persuasion science, into behavioral economics. And from my deep dive, I extracted a few observations about a few things that I think might help us in the alt-facts post-Trump world. But I'm going to hinge it on one particular cognitive quirk that we have, which is called, oh my God, the backfire effect. Have you heard about this? Anybody heard of? Oh, it's shocking. It's absolutely shocking. It's basically a cognitive quirk that not only rejects facts that contradict our core beliefs, but strengthens those core beliefs despite the facts. Nikki mentioned it this morning. Some people hearing about evidence get angry at the evidence rather than accept the evidence. But the idea that those cognitive beliefs can actually be strengthened came home to me in one example, in particular, of an immunization study that was done on people who were unwilling to immunize their children. And one of the reasons that they were going after was the fact that people were unwilling to immunize their children against flu because they thought that the flu vaccine would cause flu. This is demonstrably untrue. It's unscientific. Flu shots do not cause flu. So they brought people together. They gave them this fact. They educated them in this, and some of them actually, accepted that, yes, you're right. Immunization, flu shots will not cause flu. And then they surveyed their willingness to immunize their children. Their reluctance to immunize their children went up even after accepting the fact that the flu shots didn't cause, because they looked at all their other reasons for not wanting to vaccinate their children, and it reinforced all those other reasons. That was one. The warehouse fire example. People given a story about a warehouse that burns down, and they're given lots of details about what happened and the destruction and all that, and they're told, and there was a closet full of paint cans, and in that closet full of paint cans, that's where the fire started, and then blah, 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 and then the investigation went on, and they discovered the paint cans were not responsible. The closet they thought had paint cans was empty. And they asked people then, after that story was finished, to tell them the story of how the fire started. 50% of them forgot the correction and said it started in the closet with the paint cans. They took a similar group of people, told them exactly the same story, but instead of telling them that the closet that they found was empty, they said the closet was full of oily rags. And nobody got it wrong about what caused the fire. So what basically had happened there, when there was no reason for the fire, the brain completed it with incorrect information. They preferred to have the incorrect information to complete the story than have an incomplete story. The brain hates an incomplete story. So why does this happen? Partially because our beliefs tie us into our tribes. And if you're a member of a community that rejects immunization, you can't believe a fact that threatens your community with that particular tribe, because that's evolutionarily protected. We don't easily leave our tribes, and we don't easily believe things different from our tribes. Because we can think of our brain as more of a reasoning brain, is more like a politician than a scientist. We embrace facts that back up our opinions, and we reject facts that might change them. It's easier to say that fact is wrong than to say, I had the wrong idea about the world. That's a very hard thing to admit. And because our identity is tied to our deeper beliefs. If we walked around every day changing our opinion of our identity based on changing our opinions of facts, we'd live in a pretty crazy, chaotic world. So we don't allow that to happen. We protect our identity by protecting the facts that shore up that identity and our membership in the tribes that define that identity. So if you're a Republican, you're not going to give up on climate change very easily, because it's going to threaten who you hang out with, what you believe, and who you think you are. So, climate deniers are not the only ones that do this. The facts are so clear. Brexit can't possibly win. The facts are so clear. Donald Trump can't possibly win. We all do it. I remember my wife being absolutely convinced that she had seen the CNN piece where Donald Trump said, if I was ever going to be a Republican, ever going to be a politician, I'd become a Republican, because Republicans are so stupid they'll believe anything. It was a fake story. It never happened. But she rejected the fact that it was a fake story because she remembered seeing it. She remembered seeing it on television. Absolutely impossible. And some of us in this room actually have what Drew Weston calls an irrational love of rationality. that blinds us to the science of persuasion that says fact-based campaigning doesn't work, and we keep doing it and doing it and doing it because we love to do it. In fact, this presentation is a fact-based effort to try to persuade you. But what I gathered from various sources here are 10 suggestions of if you have to run a fact-based campaign, 10 ways you can avoid the backfire effect. And we'll start with number 10, ways to avoid the backfire effect. Abandon the information deficit model. It just doesn't work. Your report is not going to change the issue. It's not, another graph is not going to convince someone. Focus on the undecideds, not the skeptics, the people in the middle. The skeptics, you're never going to bring them over. Get the people in the middle who aren't identified with those facts. Join with someone who disagrees with you in a joint attempt to solve a mystery rather than to persuade them. I'm trying this with my brother-in-law right now, who's a Trump supporter. Adjust your framing of vocabulary to avoid triggers. George Marshall has a great piece on this. If you're talking to UK conservatives about fracking, don't talk about the earth, don't talk about ecology, talk about the sanctity of the land. That will get you an audience. Change behavior to change opinion, not the other way around. The mind is a funny thing. If somebody starts recycling, they'll think of themselves as an environmentalist because they can't possibly be inconsistent. Behavior will drive people's redefinition of who they are, and you can change their minds much easier. Make someone feel great about their values. Take identity off the table. Tough one. Don't mention the myth you're trying to debunk, only the fact you're trying to plant. Don't overkill. If one fact is enough, two might completely undermine your case. I didn't come to your party because I was sick, and I had a flat tire. Replace the table you like you're taking away. If X is not the cause for Y, make sure you have another cause for Y. Otherwise, the story is incomplete, and people will replace X back in the place where that table leg was. So you've got to replace that fact. Don't use fact at all. Avoid talking to the head. Talk to the heart. Trigger someone's values with a story. This is proven to be the most persuasive technique you can use is a true personal story, ideally told face to face, ideally told by someone you recognize as a member of your tribe, and ideally told as a conversion story. You know, I used to believe this, and here's why I changed my mind. So there's sources here. Please do go out, learn more about this. We're in the business of persuading people. We should pay attention to the science of persuading people. We can't condemn climate deniers for denying science when we ignore science ourselves. And let's get out there and make a better, more beautiful world. Cool.